Hello everyone, I'm Dina Akash and I'm back with my educational videos, and today we are going to discuss fraction powers. Today's video is not supposed to be long, but it is quite important. Fraction powers, and what do I mean by fraction powers, and where do we get them from? Now let me give you a very basic example that most of you, I'm sure, know the answer of. If I just ask you to find the value of square root 9, some of you might do it mentally, some of you might do it with a calculator. It's totally up to you. And what if I give you another example, مثلا cubic root of 8, okay? And let me give you a third example of مثلا, if I ask you to find the, مثلا هنا, let me just try this first. حاجة زي كده. 3, the cubic root of 64 squared. Let's assume you have these numerical questions. Now, initially, what would you do? Some of you might do it mentally, some of you might do it with a calculator. And of course, my advice is always use the calculator if you have the chance. Now, square root 9 is simply 3, okay? Because you're looking for a number multiplied by itself gives 9. Cubic root 8 is 2. لأنه you're looking for a number multiplied by itself 3 times, that gives 8. Okay, now as for this number over here, please, if you actually decide to place this on the calculator, then you have to use this button. Here, this button. And this symbol, and this symbol is on top of this button. So you press Shift and then this button, this will appear, and then you insert this value over here. Please don't do it this way, because some of the students do this. Okay, let me just clear this. بيعملوها كده 3 root. طبعا this is absolutely incorrect because you want the cubic root. So how do I find the cubic root as well, or any other root that you wish? As we said, you can just do it this way. Okay, press Shift, this button, this will appear, and you just fill in the boxes with whatever numbers that you want. Now, on the calculator, you will get this answer over here, which is 16. And then this is basic numerical questions. Now, what if the question doesn't say find a value? What if the question says write as 9 raised to a power? What if the question says change as 8 raised to a power? What if the question says, okay, change as 64 raised to a power? Again, the 9 is called the base, the 8 is called the base, and the 64 is called the base. So what am I required to do now? I am required to remove the root symbol and put a power instead on the base. I am required to remove the root and put a power instead. Now let's see. The 9 has a power of 1. The 8 has a power of 1. Okay? Roots, please pay attention, are changed into fractions. Roots are changed into fractions. Okay, and any fraction is a numerator and a denominator. طبعا خدوا بالكم إنه square root, the order of the root here must be 2. Although إحنا we don't write it, but إحنا we know that the order of the square root is 2. So what do I do in this case? If you wish to remove the root symbol and put a power instead, the power will be the inner value over the order. In over out. So 1 over 2. In over out. So basically, square root is the same as a number raised to the power of half. So square root 9 هي بالضبط 9 power half. Again, if I am required to remove the root symbol and I'm required to put a fraction instead, roots are changed into fraction power. The fraction is the inner power over the order. the inner over the order. So this is changed into 8 power 1 على 3, which is طبعا equals to whatever. لأن دلوقتي أنا مش هدفي أعرف هي كام. So what I'm trying to say is that cubic root is the same as power third. Cubic root is the same as power third. Type. One more time. If I have this root over here, and the order of the root is 3, and the power inside is 2, and I am required to change this into a fraction, this fraction will be in over out. 2 over 3. In over out. And actually, if you put this on the calculator, you will get the same answer, which was 16. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that in over out gives any root that you want. Now, since I tried this on numbers, does it apply with algebra? Definitely, it applies with algebra. And let's conclude the rule together. If you have any base, and whatever the power of this base, and then there's the order of the root, you have the right to remove the root and put a fraction instead. This fraction is in over out, in over out, in over out. And this is actually what we are going to discuss and practice on in this video. So let's start by numerical examples, because in year 10 we always get, sorry, أنا آسفة. Let's start by algebraical examples, because in year 10 we usually get algebraic examples. So let me just give you an example over here. What if the question says, simplify, and then we're going to move on to classified part 1, root x all to the power of 6. حاجة زي كده. دايما أنا بقول للولاد عندي إيه؟ اللي مش عاجبك خبيه أو اتصرف فيه. اللي مش عاجبك خبيه أو اتصرف فيه. تمام? Now, whenever you look at any algebraic question, you have to determine what makes this question. So this question is the base, which is the letter x, the brackets, which بالنسبة لي طبعا أكيد مش مشكلة, the numerical power, which is the 6, and then we have the root. So مين اللي مش عاجبني هنا؟ أكيد اللي مش عاجبني هنا هو الروت. طيب إيه معلوماتي بقى عن الروت اللي أنا لسه قايلها من شوية؟ أوكي؟ طيب الروت ده، ما هو ده اللي مش عاجبني. طيب هخبيه، ما بعد هخبيه اتصرف، هعمل ايه؟ يعني هيروح فين؟ لا، انا اتصرف فيه. يعني ايه اتصرف فيه؟ يعني هل انا ينفع اشيل الروت ده واحط مكانه رقم؟ So what I'm trying to say is that this root, because it causes a problem, I am allowed, according to what we just explained, to remove this square root symbol and put the equivalent power, which is half. وده اللي مش عاجبني واديني اتصرفت فيه اهو. Now let me just try this again. Square root is always equivalent to power half. Cubic root is always equivalent to power third. And as we just concluded the rule together, you are allowed to remove any root في الدنيا and put a fraction instead, which is the inner power over the outer power. So what I did is that I removed the square root and I replaced it with the equivalent power, which is half. I kept the bracket as it is, and then I kept the power outside, which is the 6 as it is. So problem solved. اللي مش عاجبنا اتصرفنا فيه. And then now I can continue بقى my question. Normally when you have brackets and there is a power inside and then there is a power outside, so what do I do in this case? You multiply the powers. Okay, now whenever you are dealing with roots, you have to fix this problem first. Remove the roots, put the equivalent powers, and then continue from there. Remove the roots, put equivalent powers, and then continue from there. Now let's move on to the classified and solve all the questions that we will have related to negative powers. Now, this is classified part 1. Classified part 1, page 2. Classified part 1, page 2. Now, this is a similar question over here. أنا طبعا مش من أنصار اللي أقول لك أنت في السكوير روت اعمل divide by 2 على طول. أنا ما بعملش كده خالص. اوكي انا بمشيها كده step by step لان مش كل المسائل بتبقى that simple. So let's look at the question over here. Here it says simplify the following bracket root x to the power of 8. Identify the item that causes the trouble. This is the item that causes the trouble. ده اللي مش عاجبني. فقلنا اللي مش عاجبك اعمل فيه ايه؟ اتصرف فيه. اتصرف فيه يعني اعمل ايه؟ افتكر كده بيني وبين نفسي احنا لسه كانت مس دينا قالت لنا ايه؟ مس دينا كانت قالت لنا انه السكوير روت is equivalent to power half. دي معناها اتصرف فيه. So identify the problem. The brackets are definitely not a problem. The letter X is not a problem. The number 8 is just a simple number. Now the problem is the root, and to be very specific, the square root. And as we said, square root always and forever could be replaced by half. Could be replaced by half. And then now, accordingly, when you have brackets, a power outside and the power inside, a power outside and the power inside, you can multiply these powers 8 times half, which is equal to 4. 8 times half, which is equal to 4. طيب هل الأسئلة كلها that simple؟ لا. أحيانا المسائل بتسخف شوية. What I was just saying is that not all questions are super simple like that. لا, some questions might be a little more complicated, like this question over here. Okay, now I am given this fraction, and this fraction says that root a multiplied by a power 1 can be written in the form of a power k. Find the value of k. Now, a combination of operations. Let me please remind you with the basic operations that you definitely know, which are when we multiply, we add the powers, even if the powers are letters, by the way. Sorry. X to the power of a, for example, مثلا times x to the power of b. So in this case, your answer will be x to the power of a plus b. That's it. Even if the powers are negative. So if this is -4 and this is 5, this changes into +1. So in multiplication, we add the powers, even if the powers are positive, negative, whatever. X to the power of 2. In division, we subtract the powers. Again, powers could be positive, powers could be negative, powers could be fractions, powers could be letters, okay? And in brackets, x to the power of a, and for instance, if I have b here, in brackets, we multiply the power outside with the power inside, giving this answer, which is x to the power of ab. So in multiplication, we add powers. In division, we subtract powers. In brackets, we multiply powers. And what did we discuss new today? In roots. What do I do with powers? I divide powers. In divided by out. In over out, in over out. Now, some questions might be بقى a combination of all of these. Add to them the negative powers, of course. So let's look at this question over here. The question here says, remove all this, put the base with 1 power only. This is what the question requires. So first, identify the powers. This is +1, this is -2, and this is a root symbol. So there goes a problem. اللي مش عاجبك اتصرف فيه. Identify the problem, fix this problem. As we said earlier, root a can always and forever be changed into a power half. Always, as much as you can, try and change the question into a numerical question, especially when you're dealing with powers. So roots are always square root, to be very specific, always change into power half. And now, بقى, what do? You simplify the powers according to the operation that we have. I prefer dealing with multiplication first. So since all of the question has the same base, which is base A, then in the highlighted area, I can add the powers outside, sorry. So this changes into a to the power of 1.5 over a to the power of -2. So I added the powers in the numerator. Now, what do I do? Since I have same base, again, then I am allowed to subtract the powers. So this changes into a to the power of 1.5 minus -2. اللي فوق minus اللي تحت. So it's okay to have two negative signs ورا بعضهم. So 1.5 minus -2. So the answer is a to the power of 3.5. Remember that the question says find the value of k. So you have to write later on that the k is equal to 3.5. You want to keep it as a decimal, you want to keep it in a fraction form, it's totally up to you. But if the question says that the answer مثلا should be exact, although it would يعني مش هيطلب مني exact في سؤال زي ده, then you keep it as a fraction. So that you keep it as a fraction. More questions related to this part? Either. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Question with another question related to roots. This question over here. Okay, and this is page 7, same classified. Page 7, classified part 1. Okay, the question says here, find the value of k. Again, I am given several roots, several items, and I am required to remove all of this and put one item instead. Okay, now let me remind you of something again. Now, since we discussed the powers, only addition, subtraction, multiplication, there's a whole video about the negative powers. Now there's just the zero power. That one, of course, you remember that anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. And of course, there is a mathematical reason behind that. So if I write a to the power of 0, the answer is 1. If I write 2 to the power of 0, the answer is 1. So basically what I'm trying to say is that the 1 could be replaced by any base that you want, but just make sure that the power is equal to 0. By the way, even if the base is negative, but if it's negative, you must place it between a bracket and the power to be placed outside like this. مش كده غلط. كده تطلع لي -1. Okay? So going back to this question over here, let's identify the problem. Now the problem is very clear, it's very obvious. It's here in the denominator. Now, as we said, now what case is that, ya Ms. Dina? What case is that, ya Ms. Dina? طبعا هنا I'm going to do two approaches for this question over here. Now, there is an inner power and there is an outer power. As we said, square root is always power half. Cubic root is always power 1/3. Now, any other root, كتبناها بقى كذا مرة, أنا مش عايزاكم تزهقوا مني, is changed into in over out, as you can see. So basically, what I will do now is that I will remove this root symbol and put a fraction instead, which is the inner power over the outer power, 2/4. Of course, this to be simplified into c to the power of half. Now, by looking at this answer and this answer, now the examiner wishes that the c to be placed up كده as a numerator, not as a denominator. According to what we explained in the negative powers video, if you wish to change the sign of the power, change the position of in the fraction. يعني if I wish to send this c up, لو أنا عايزة أطلع السي دي فوق, فهيحصل إيه في الباور بتاعها؟ الباور بتاعها will change from positive into negative بالشكل ده. تمام؟ So the k is equal to -half. This is one approach. Another approach is this. 1/c to the power of half. And I wish to change this into c power whatever. Now, according to what I said in the whiteboard, that the 1 could be changed into any base as long as you make sure that this base has a power of 0. Now, the base that we are dealing with in this question is the letter C. So this one could be changed into C power 0. Okay, this one ليش اشمعنى C بالذات؟ عشان المسألة دي البيز بتاعها C. And then I will keep the denominator as it is. And now, what do I do with the powers? Since I have same base, and since the operation here is division, I am allowed to subtract the powers. So 0 minus half, which is negative half. And of course, I will get the same answer. So the K is equal to negative half. You want to keep as decimal, you want to keep as fraction. It is totally up to you. There is another question related to roots. Let's see if we have some more. And actually, I think we do. Okay. Oh. Again, a question with roots combined by negative power. Root combined by negative power. Root combined by negative power. So always, 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 زي ما بقول لكم, fix the problem first. Fix the problem first. Now, there goes your problem. Now here it says, given that root y over x, all this fraction under the root to the power of negative 5, okay, could be written as x power m, y over y power m, find the value of m. Now, as you can see, the powers are the same, so I am required to find the powers. Now, deal with the problem. The problem is the root. So y over x, keep it as it is for the time being. Now, remember what we said about square root? Yes, square root could be written as power half. Square root could be written as power half. عايزة أقول حاجة برضو يا جماعة بس الأول إنه دي كده لا هي y الأول sorry. If I have a fraction under one root, I am allowed to separate it as follows. يعني أنا من حقي إن أنا أفصل الروت فوق وتحت. نفس الكلام if I am dealing with multiplication. I am allowed to separate it as follows. This part was discussed in details in the video thirds. So what I can do over here initially is that I can separate the square root on both items. And then I will keep the power outside as it is for the times being. And then to fix the problem is the root. And we said it so many times this video that the root, the square root, is changed into power half. The root is changed, or the square root is changed into power half, always and forever. See بقى? Now, according to what we explained in the negative fraction videos, negative powers, sorry, when you're dealing with fractions and there's a negative sign outside, you are allowed to flip the fraction. That was discussed in full details in another video. Flip the fraction, change the sign outside from negative to positive. Change the sign outside from negative to positive اللي هي كنا سميناها شقلب وقلب. So again, I have the right to separate the root up and down because the root is on the fraction. And then, according to what we explained in this video, square root could be replaced by power halves. According to a previous video, I am allowed to use the شقلب وقلب shortcut because I am dealing with the fraction with negative power. So what I did is that I flipped the fraction and I changed the sign outside from negative 5 into positive 5. And now, the final step, which is take the power outside, multiply by the powers inside. So 5 times half is 2.5. Y times half is, half times 5 is 2.5. So as you can see, طبعا this could be written as x over y all to the power of 2 over 5, 2.5. So the value of the m is 2.5 as required in the video, as required in the question. Sorry. This is my third video today, so maybe that's why. خلاص بقى ابتديت ايه. Yeah. Anyways, let's see. There is one more question that is very important. راح فين؟ لا كان هنا أنا شفته كان في P. Actually, even if it's not there, I'm just going to give you a question. أنا اللي هعمله بس كان في كنت لسه عاملاه. أهو. Yes, I know. I saw it. Okay. Now this is the last question that we're going to do today. And as you can see, this is labeled as question number 20. Yani the question is considering this question, the examiner قصدي is considering this question to be like a tricky question or so. بس ما فيش حاجة صعبة علينا. احنا ناس أقوياء جدا جدا جدا. The question says simplify. The question doesn't say. The question أنا عايزاكم تتعودوا إن انتوا لما تشوفوا مسألة تعرفوا على طول تتصرفوا فيها ازاي. Now the question here says, find the value of m. I am required to take this fraction, remove it, and put the base with just one power, So let's see what can I do over here. Now we have two approaches. Okay, I'm going to do the better approach, which is since the question has a has a base of p, this means that every item in this fraction must have a base p. So the 1 will be changed into p power 0, according to what we said earlier, that we are allowed to remove the 1 and put any base that you wish, بشرط إنه البase يبقى الpower قصدي يبقى 0. Now this p over here has a power of 1, and to deal with the fraction, with the root, as we said, I am allowed to remove the root and put a fraction instead, and this fraction will be the inner power over the root. In over out, in over out, in over out. And then what do I do next? خلاص بقى I simplify according, so this is the problem. Identify the problem and fix it. اللي مش عاجبك اتصرف فيه. ودلوقتي I will keep the numerator as it is. هنا I can add because I have multiplication and I am dealing with the same base, so I have the right to add the powers. So 1 plus 2 over 3, which is 5 over 3. So I added the powers over here. And then now to the final answer, since I have the same base, which is the letter P, and now I moved on to division. So what do I do with, in this case, with the powers? I subtract the powers. So 0 minus 5 over 3, which is negative 5 over 3. Please remember that the question says find the value of m. So you must write that the m is equal to negative 5 over 3. That the m is equal to negative 5 over 3. Actually, this is what I prefer, which is removing the 1 and put p power 0 instead. Or you can just keep the 1 as it is. But صراحة, I don't really recommend this قوي يعني. But I'm just going to say it anyways. Not my recommendation. Keep the 1 as it is. P to the power of 1 will remain as it is, which is this item here on the right, on the left. The item on the right, اللي هو root. This item again, I'm going to say this again. Now, this root symbol must be removed. And when it's removed, it is automatically changed to a fraction. The fraction is the inner power divided by the outer power, in over out. And then combine down, since in the denominator we have the same letter, so I can add the powers of this letter. So this changes into p to the power of 1 plus 2 over 3, which is 5 over 3. Now, according to the negative power video, if I want to send this up, so what happens to the sign of the power? The sign of the power changes into negative 5 over 3. Actually, this is the proof of it. The proof of it. Yani if you wish to prove it, this is the proof. And of course, you get the same answer, which is m equals negative 5 over 3. Now, I hope that this video was useful to you related to fraction powers. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you soon in a new educational video. Bye.